Hi, Roger Hance here with Ambitious Broker, and welcome to this episode. Today we're going to be talking with Darryl Davis, who's a well-known national, actually international trainer. He has seminars around that are called Power Agents, and he does a great job of helping people understand their role in the business and get some clarity in where they're going and become more productive in what they do. So sit back, enjoy this, and let me know what you think. And if you're enjoying what we're giving you here, be sure to subscribe and like what we're doing. And so enjoy Darryl Davis and Ambitious Broker. Hi, everyone. I'm here with Ambitious Broker today, and I've got with me world famous Darryl Davis, coach. You know him from Darryl Davis seminars. And I was teasing him earlier about all the emails that I get because he's so good at getting information out via his email. And he also has, what do you call your organization, Power Agent?
Yeah, so our company is Darryl Davis Seminars. My social media handle, though, is Darryl Speaks, Darryl Speaks, meaning that's our website, darrylspeaks.com.
Right.
That's my YouTube channel, Facebook, so everything. And but our membership, our coaching membership, is the Power Program, and our members are called Power Agents.
Okay.
So some people refer to it as the Power Agent Program or the Power Program or whatever. So yeah,
I love it. And you do stuff. I said world renowned, and you actually do literally do things in multiple countries. I know out there spreading the word.
Yeah, been to Germany, Australia, New Zealand, Hawaii. I
That
know
other country, Hawaii.
I know it's not a country, but boy, if you've ever been there, you would say this is a different. It's like a country because it's so beautiful. It's incredible. I love Hawaii. It's my favorite place.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's talk real quickly about your background. You're on Ambitious Broker, which means that you're a player, and you've got a substantial resume. So
either that or I lost a bet.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
That could be.
I'm very honored to be here, actually. So thank you.
So anyway, but real quickly, I know your background. I know you started pretty early in real estate, like 19 or something. And why don't you do a little bit of that for me real quickly so we can get your credibility out of the way. Everybody knows.
Sure.
Everybody's going to know you're great, but we want a little background.
Sure. All right. So I guess I've always got to start with the not great part of my life or my story. I was an emancipated minor at 16, meaning I was out on my own, had my own apartment, working odd jobs, still going to high school. 19 years old. I was a struggling actor. I wanted to be in movies and commercials, a theater major. While I was in college, I heard about this great job or profession that I could make my own hours, chuckle, and still go on auditions in New York City. So I got my real estate license while I was in college as a theater major. Passed the test, of course, started doing successful in real estate, doing 6 transactions a month. I kind of phased out of acting and got into managing an office, which became number one for 6 months on Long Island. Back in my day when I was an agent, it was back in BC before computers. Al Gore didn't invent the internet yet, so it was a different market. And, we had tear sheets. It was our MLS was our internet, was printed books.
Sure.
Of houses for sale. And
what year was that?
Yeah.
What year was that, Darryl? Roughly.
Oh, now you're going to quiz me.
Early 70s, mid 70s, early 80s.
No. It was. I'm not that old. What the hell's wrong with you? No, let's see. 80 to 90, I think. 83, class 83. Yeah, I think 90, something like that.
Got it.
I'd have to do the math.
Well, then I'm way ahead of you because I did start in the 70s, and so unfortunately, I am that old. So,
I mean, when I was an agent, it was in. I was in the. I guess it was. I don't know, man. I'd have to do the math now. What you confused me here. So 19. Let me see if I add 19 years onto that. Yeah, it was mid 80s. It was when I was in real estate.
Got it. Okay.
And then let's see. And then I started to get into coaching and training. That was my job in the office that I managed. So I was really good at it. So then I met this guy by the name of Floyd Wickman, and he recruited me to be one of his trainers for his program. And then in 1993, I broke out on my own, created the Power Program, which now I have, best-selling book and thousands of students and kicking butt and taking names and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So
Let's talk about that. Well, I tell you what, I want to talk about your book first, because your book, I think I was taken by this idea of smiling, and you're probably the only person I've heard about that says that kind of built a whole world around the idea of smiling. What do you mean by that? And back up, you've read a book, and the book is called.
Yeah, so actually I have 3 books. And by the way, I like to clarify this, because everybody likes to be an author and they write their own books. One of my coaching students, they just sent me this Inside Home Selling Tips by Bob and Joyce Granick. Self-publishing to me is great, but it's not the same when you have a major publisher. Like, my books are published by McGraw-Hill Publishing. They actually reached out to me asking me to write a book, which anybody in the writing book world will tell you is a huge compliment, because usually when you write a book, what you do is you have to find an agent, which that in of itself is a project. And then once you find the agent, then the agent basically knocks on doors trying to find a publisher who's willing to publish your book.
Right.
So, I skipped all that because the publisher called me. So that right there is a pretty cool accomplishment. So the first book I wrote for them was How to Become a Power Agent in Real Estate, which is based on our coaching. And it's a listing and selling book, best-selling book. And then the second book, because it went so well, they asked me to write How to Make $100,000 in Your First Year in Real Estate. Honestly, that book is not too great. It's fine. It's a good book. There's some nuggets in there, and I think it's worth the price. But the entire book is, I probably shouldn't have written it. I'm being honest about it. I wrote it because McGraw-Hill pushed me, because the first book was such a cash cow for them. They thought lightning can strike twice. But then the third book, which is the one you brought up, is How to Design a Life Worth Smiling About. That was a passion project. I started doing video blogs about smiling because I had taken a course at Berkeley University about happiness, and they had a section in there about smiling and how powerful a tool that is. And there was actually scientific studies done on it. People who smile more live longer, have happier relationships. They're more successful in business. They actually make more money, believe it or not. And so there's all this science and study behind it. It was just so fascinating. I video blogged about it for 5 years straight. For 5 years, I did 1 video a day, 5 days a week for 5 years.
Wow.
And a tremendous amount of content out there. And so McGraw-Hill said, you should write a book on that. So I did, and that was my third and last book.
Well, I'm going to read that book because I find it I haven't yet, but it's just a great story.
It's so fascinating because, and I'll just give one little tip just to tease people so they can look into it more. But you and I have 44 muscles in our face that can make thousands of facial expressions. But when we use 12 of the 44 muscles to form a smile, that actually, there's a mechanism, that happens. Those specific 12 muscles, when you form the smile, it tells the brain something good's happening. And so then the brain generates the feel-good chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. So literally, it's like a light switch. When you smile, you give yourself these positive feelings and positive chemicals. And just to validate that point, and then we'll go on to your next
Yeah.
question, is there was a study done. There's actually many studies, but one of them is called the Botox study. And what they discovered is that people who have Botox injections in any of the 12 muscles associated with smiling, they actually have an increase in depression.
Really?
And the reason, yeah, because they turn off the mechanism that actually generates the feel-good chemicals. So, and that's just one of the studies. This book has all of the scientific studies that I found about smiling. So you see just how important it is. And then it gives strategies on how to create a life worth smiling about, certain things that you can do to just be happier in your life.
I can't wait to read it. I really do, because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, it really is.
So this idea of bringing something, generating some positiveness out of you, and you sort of start to spew it out to the rest of the world, right? It comes back. It's hard to be mad at somebody who's smiling at you, right?
Actually, that's another one of the studies, is that as human, first of all, smiling is the most recognized facial expression of all facial expressions. Is you can, if you were to have somebody stand at the opposite end of a football field and you're at the other end, you couldn't make out most of their facial expressions except for the smile. That their smile is the one, and instinctively, what happens when somebody smiles at you, you instinctively want to smile back. One of the studies show that 50% of the times people will naturally smile, and the other 50%, usually that person is making a mental choice to not smile. Like their body wants to reciprocate with another smile.
Right.
It's part of our human DNA. Oxytocin is one of the 4 chemicals associated with smile. And it turns out that that chemical is actually found in the 3rd chromosome in our DNA. So it's in our DNA to be connected with human beings, which is what oxytocin does. And smiling is one of those techniques associated with increasing oxytocin.
So we got to say it's your number one sales tool.
Well, it is. Nielsen Rating, actually, the Nielsen Rating company, they actually did a study of Super Bowl commercials. And they found, I think this study was done about 7 years ago, and they found that the commercials that made people smile actually had a higher rate of return, because there's something about the defensiveness. When you smile, you're less defensive, you're more receptive to the message. And, I challenge people next time they see Super Bowl commercials to find one where it doesn't make you smile. Like, it's part of the strategy of every Super Bowl commercial. It's going to smile. And actually, if you look at any commercial, it's very rare that you will find a commercial where the actor is not smiling in the commercial.
Well, it's funny because it's sort of intuitive, right? I mean, in a way, you feel better when you smile.
Yeah.
Like, people around you, when they smile, makes you feel better. So, it's
absolutely,
to give it that much thought is interesting. It sure makes a lot of sense. So I think it's a good way to start. So we want agents to start smiling more.
Okay? Sure.
But talk to me. So I look at it, my experience has been basically that someone either starts brand new in the business, or they've been in the business for a while and they're trying to jump up to another level of person. And both are interesting challenges, but I personally found that once a person gets really baked into some of their habits, that next jump becomes pretty difficult. It takes a lot of intention to take that next jump. Getting someone right from the beginning and some foundation laid really helps them long term, I think. So what do you recommend to people that are brand new that are starting?
Well, the first thing for new people starting is that they've got to be kind to themselves. And what I mean by that is, again, I've been doing this business for over 35 years. I've trained hundreds of thousands of agents in my entire career. And one of the common things that I found, Roger, is that that new salespeople, the first thing that they learn, which can be frustrating, is all the things they didn't know that they didn't know they had to learn. So in other words, they come into real estate not realizing really what this business is. They think they know. And once they get in it, they start to, because they take their license exam class,
Right.
which is nothing to do with making money in real estate. So they take the class, they pass the test, they come into a real estate office and they're like, none of this was on the test. What are you talking about? What do I have to learn? And so in the first month, they actually feel stupider, which I know is not a word, but I like it anyway. They feel stupider because they're learning all the things that they don't know that they didn't know. And so I tell them, you've got to be okay with that. That's part of the learning process, is first discovering all the things that you have to now learn.
Right.
And then you go to it. So that's the first thing I would say. The next thing is they've got to be prepared financially.
By the way, sorry to interrupt you.
It's all right. It's your show.
I agree with that very much. In other words, going back to my history of agents, I think I have, and generally speaking, industry-wide, people get recruited with a very shallow understanding of what it really takes to succeed in the business.
Right.
And it is a challenge. I agree with that. I think it's, I hadn't thought of it that way, but it's probably a number one.
Well, Roger, here's
your
the other
expectations straight.
Here's the other thing I think that's very is a big mistake with agents coming in, and I say the broker not preparing them with this, is the agents come into it thinking that it's just about selling houses, selling real estate. And really what they should do, and I'm a real advocate for telling people that they've got to stop looking at themselves as salespeople and look at themselves as business people. And I don't mean that just as a motivational expression. I really mean that they should take this on and look at it as a business person. And the reason why is because a salesperson, it's very superficial, that definition, especially for what we do in real estate, because what we do is so much more than just sell. When you are a real estate professional and you think like a business person as an entrepreneur, well, what is a business owner? Just think of any business other than real estate. Let's say you're going to open up a pizzeria. I use pizzerias because I'm Italian from New York and we got a lot of them.
Yes.
But if you're going to open up,
I have an Italian wife, so I'm eating pasta every night, so you're.
There you go. You understand. What did
you guys
what
are
kind
a
of
bad
pasta?
influence on me. It's hard to keep the weight down.
What did she make for you last night? What kind of pasta?
I had, it was kind of like a linguine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
With some chicken in it. It was good.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. I had ziti with homemade meatballs last night, made out of saltine crackers as opposed to bread. It was delicious.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when you think of if you think of opening up a pizzeria, what do you got to do? Well, first of all, you got to figure out your location. All right. So there's that. Then once you find the location, then you get the space. You got to build out the space. You got to buy your equipment. Then you got to hire your staff. You got to train your staff. You got to market your business. You've got to manage your cash flow. You've got to pay your bills. If you think about it, that's what a real estate agent has to do. They got to pick their location, which is their farm area and the office that they're going to work. They got to get their supplies and their equipment. That means their MLS and their listing, conversation book, and all that stuff. And they've got to market themselves. They got to manage their finances. They've got to think about self-promotion. Roger, when an agent says, I'm not a salesperson, I'm an entrepreneur and a business person, they take on what they do with a higher level of respect.
Yes.
And I think that that's important. And I'll share one other thing too on this. I'm really big. As a matter of fact, we gave our power agents a letter to send out to every one of their department of states in every state of the United States, encouraging Department of Licensing to stop calling real estate agents salespeople. And here's why. Because if you let's look at any sales industry, but we'll use cars as the example. When you're a salesperson selling a car, do you need to have E&O insurance? No, but we do. Do you represent the buyer like a fiduciary responsibility to the buyer and doing the right thing by them? No. In real estate, we do.
Right.
Do you need a license to sell cars? No, but in real estate, we do. Do you have to do CE every a year or 2 years? No, in real estate, we do.
Right.
So when you think of it, we are closer to doctors and lawyers than we are salespeople because we have fiduciary, we have a license, we're government managed by the state, we have certain things that we have to do. We have the insurance. So I'm really passionate about we need to stop calling ourselves salespeople and call ourselves professionals or anything other than the word salesperson.
Well, I got to tell you, first of all, probably the most influential man in my life was a guy who was a multimillionaire back in the 70s, and he sold vacuum cleaners. And I remember he gave me a lecture one day about how honorable it was to sell. And he goes, one day there'll be a cure for cancer, and we better hope we got some great salespeople out there because there's going to be a lot of resistance to it, right? And so this idea of accepting selling, and then to think that there is no business that doesn't sell. So, we have to just enjoy that. Now, that said, I'm back online with you on this. And one of the things I talk about often is that it really drives me crazy when I hear people say, I sold 50 houses. Or I sold 100 houses last year, or whatever the number is. I sold 5 houses. Because the truth of the matter is, you didn't sell it at all. The person who owns it sold it. They're the seller, or they're the buyer. You didn't buy and you didn't sell, but you did consult with and help people do that. And if you keep the perspective of your job correct, like you said, it can help your attitude about it. But I mean, that's just the truth. So you start with the idea that I'm not selling, I'm not a salesperson. I'm going to help this person with the service that I provide, the knowledge and so forth. Yeah. So.
I'll bring it one step further. Not only did we not sell it, and you said the seller sold it, but even I would even say that nobody sold it. It was the buyer who bought it. The sale was the result of it, but you can't force somebody to buy a house if they don't want to buy it. Because people buy with emotion.
Right.
And I tell our power agents that whenever you're dealing with a homeowner, you're on a listing appointment. Roger, here's one of the things that trip agents up tremendously, is they go on a listing appointment, especially with FSBOs. By the way, that was my niche when I was an agent.
Yeah, so for sale by owners and expireds.
For sale by owners and expireds. It's how I built my business. Other speakers, they build their business other ways. So that's how I did mine. And so when you talk, and thank God for that, because when you can master listing the hardest, everything else is a walk in the park.
Yeah.
And there's nothing harder than a FSBO because of the for sale by owner, they don't even see value in realtor.
Right.
They think they can do it themselves. Right. So there's a deeper conversation that one must have with a FSBO to move the needle in order to get that listing. But going back,
you talk about a thing called, and I keep stepping on you. I apologize, but
it's all right.
You got my juices going now.
Good man.
You talk about some of these steps of success, and one of the things you talk about is generate now business. You call it now business.
Yes.
And we were an organization that was really built initially on farming, fundamentally on farming, and so I was, my whole world was built around that, but to get to the place where I could start building my funnel, build my long-term, pipeline, so to speak, I had to have business now.
Yes.
That now business. And it's, I think, do you agree that you kind of got to figure out a way to do both? You want stuff that starts, I used to say, you're going to need business 2 years from now as badly as you need it today. So be doing something today for that. But I got to pay the bills next month too.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the best strategies, we give our power agents a whole list of now business things that where they can generate listings in the next 30 days. FSBOs is one of them. But my favorite is, imagine what would happen to an agent's business if they every day, or let's not do every day, 5 days a week, 2 hours on the telephone every week, 5 days a week, calling friends, family, past clients. If you're a new agent, calling past clients of the office of the company, calling a farm area, calling around just listed, like 2 hours a day, shaking the trees on the telephone. And if an agent did that 5 days a week for 30 days, there's no way in heck that they won't generate some business in that 30-day time frame.
Right.
So I tell people, if you're financially crunched, that's what you do. Nothing else. Just do that for 30 days and watch what happens.
Right. Right. Looking for now business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Other now businesses would be expireds, open houses, another way to generate now. Neighborhood open houses, one of my favorites as well. So,
I had a bunch of agents throughout the years that that would start, and I didn't hire new people till about my 5th year in business because I didn't think I could handle them really well. What we liked trying to get someone up to the next level, but the one of the things that I noticed with these people is that you got to um, you have to believe in the system. Belichick, who's a coach from your part of the world over there, would say, trust the process, trust the process. And I know that there's so many of our people, and who knows how many in real estate that start off and they just can't get to the point to where it'll start to happen for them. They were fundamentally pretty sound. They were doing the stuff that you're talking about. They were knocking doors, building their farm, and while their world was starting to build, their money's running out. And I've seen people literally one closing. I have one particular guy that's a 7-figure guy a year, and he has been for 25 years. And he literally came to my office one day, and had I not loaned him $3,000, he would have left the business. Came to that one moment in time, a threshold where $3,000 was the difference between linking to a multi-million-dollar future. So it's that now business I think is really important.
Yeah, it's again going back to that pizzeria analogy. If you think like a business person and you open up this store and nobody's coming to buy your pizza, you still got your rent, you still got your staffs there, and what are you going to do? You're going to just sit behind the counter and cry that you don't have people coming in?
Right.
Like if I owned a pizzeria and I didn't have people coming into my store, I don't know what maybe I would go rent a friggin' pizza costume and stand out in front and wave.
Right.
Because I got to pay my bills.
Right.
So that's the difference between thinking like a salesperson versus a business person. A salesperson will sit in the office and they may go to the broker and say, I need you to give me more leads.
Right.
I need you to do a mailing for me. No, man, you shouldn't put that burden on the broker. Again, you got to think like your own business person.
Yeah, agreed. Very good. Very good. So you started off working for sell-by owners. You got a few tips for people on how they might approach that? Because ironically, even in this business that we're in today and the type of market that we're in, there's still a lot of for sale by owners out there.
Yeah. So as I said, well, I didn't say this part, but I'll tell the people watching and listening, one of the major reasons to call for sale by owners is not just for the business, which is good. It is what it does to the individual agent. See, most agents, Roger, when it comes to calling FSBOs or expireds, they don't have fear. Fear has them. They so don't want to make the call because it's so nerve-wracking. It's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable for them. And that's why they should make the call. Because it's not about getting an appointment. It's not about getting a listing. It's about having a breakthrough and not having fear hold you back. And what I've noticed happens, Roger, is that when agents have that breakthrough, it's a ripple effect in their entire business, because that's the hardest thing to have a breakthrough in. So if you can push past the I don't want to, I don't feel like it, this is uncomfortable, all that noise that holds you back from dialing for dollars, if you push through and you have that breakthrough, then real estate becomes so much easier. Yeah. So my tip on how to, because I'm really good with FSBOs. When I do my live training, I do one program once a year. I'll do a live training just for our power agents. And I'll call FSBOs live from the stage. And if I speak to 4, I'll schedule 3. And the real secret sauce is not just the dialogue, which the dialogue is in my Power Agent book, by the way. It's the attitude. The attitude I tell people is when you make the call, what's the purpose of the call? What do you want to have happen? And they'll always say the same wrong answer, and that is to get the appointment. And the reason why that's the wrong answer is because if it's about you getting the appointment, then who is it not about? It's not about them. It's about you, about winning, about taking an appointment. All wrong, all wrong. And when you have it be about getting the appointment, you've set up a win-lose scenario. If you got it, you won. But if you didn't, you're a loser and you're bad and you should go get a real job. That's what we do with that result. So here's what I tell people. Do not be committed to getting the appointment. Be committed to building a relationship with another human being. Now, what's interesting is that no matter what the result is, you've had a successful call because you talked to another human being and you had dialogue. That's number one. Number two, to build a relationship with another human being. How do you do that? You've got to ask questions. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You need to communicate in that proportion. Listen twice the amount of speaking that you do. The listening happens in the listening, not in the speaking. So it gets you better at asking questions. And plus, in order to build a relationship with another human being, you got to take the focus off of you and it's got to be on them, not you. So that's my secret to being successful with making calls.
Yeah, it's funny, 2 things on that. I remember when I first started, I had that great fear too of door knocking in my farm. And I'm door knocking one day, probably my 3rd, 4th day in the business, something like that. And I run across the nicest woman you would ever want to meet in your life. And one day she ultimately, after I started my company, she came and worked for me. But she was just so nice, so refreshing. Come on in, have some water. So I got to the point to where if I was sitting in my office and I had scheduled to door knock today on my farm, and I did it 3, sometimes 4 days a week, and I would start, and half the time, Darryl, it was hard for me to get my first step towards my car. It just was. And then I would be driving, and I had one particular street in my farm that I hated so much. Eventually, I realized I had 700 other houses. I could just not go there. It bothered me so much, I says, why do I put myself through this? I don't like the street. Just don't go. I'll be okay, But I would get to where I would have this apprehension, and I would stop at her house. I wasn't door knocking her street that day, and I just says, well, if I stop and talk to Fran, she'll put me in the right state of mind, and then I can go back and continue my day. So that fear, and I think the important thing there was just the technique. If that works for me, then
right.
What, you'll find out what works for you, right?
So there's we sometimes give movie assignments to our power agents. And these movies have specific messages in it. And one of the movie assignments is Defending Your Life. Meryl Streep and Albert Brooks. And this movie is about, it's a comedy, and I love this movie. But anyway, they die, the 2 of them die, and it turns out that when we die, we go to this whole, have you seen the movie, by the way?
No, I haven't seen it.
So I'm not giving a punchline away. But the concept is that when you die, you go to this holding pattern, and then they decide whether you go on to heaven or if you go back to earth and try it again. So this holding pattern, they review your life on earth to see if you deserve to move on.
Okay, great.
So that's why it's called Defending Your Life, because it's like a courtroom scenario thing. And there's this one scene and why we give the movie as the assignment. And the attorney for Albert Brooks is saying the number one thing that we look for is that you've overcome fear. And he says that the reason why is because fear is like a cloud. It clouds your judgment. You can't see things clearly. You don't live extraordinarily. You hold back in life. But when you lift that cloud of fear, you're in for the ride of your life. And so that's why I give that movie assignment, because I tell agents, listen, you only should do the things that give you joy in real estate, because if you like doing it and you enjoy doing it, you're going to want to do it consistently, and it'll make real estate fun.
Yep.
The exception to that is if there's something in real estate you're afraid to do, you need to do it, not for the result, but for you to break through the fear process.
Right.
So
No, I agree with that. It's funny. It reminds me. I had an agent one time who after I'd sold my company, he went on and he started his own company, and he invited me to come out and speak to his office one day. And when he introduced me, he said, "This is my original broker," and so forth. And he goes, and he told me something very important one day. He said, and this is true. I would say this, and that is, if you'll go up to the edge of the cliff and jump, your intensity to solve the problem goes up tremendously. You know,
Yeah.
and so that idea of just jump. You're not going to die in this business. Just jump, get off of it, and then all of a sudden you start thinking about, I have a problem. Now you start looking for solutions.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
how about the for sub-owner and expired world, technology probably a lesser role in some of that, I suppose, than people that have sophisticated social media stuff or they do sophisticated farming or CRM stuff. And but where do you see technology playing a role today, right now? How important is that to an agent starting?
I think technology, like anything else, is a tool that, you use it if it works for you and that it helps you. I do think there's certain tech that we must have. It's not an option. For example, a CRM. I'm just shocked at how many agents still are not
Here.
using some kind of computerized database. Outlook is not a CRM. Sometimes people confuse. Excel is not a CRM. So Wise Agent is an example. Top Producer, etc. So,
Right.
but anyway, I think that, and I think also AI. AI today, Roger, is the worst it's ever going to be. I heard a speaker say that once.
That's a great way to put it.
He's a futurist. Like the AI today is the worst it's ever going to be, meaning that it just keeps getting better, and it's exponential too. I mean, if we've seen the growth of ChatGPT and its versions and models that it has is just crazy on how fast it's growing.
Right.
So I do think ChatGPT or any AI is a good tool to have. And that's essentially it. But we're still in a people business, so tech is not going to replace us. You said about social media and advertising. I do want to say this. I think it's important. There are many different paths to be successful in real estate. Some agents are doing it because they want. They're doing social media because they want to be an influencer, right? They want to be a TikTok star. And then some agents make the mistake that they look at those TikTok folks and think, well, I have to do that. And I don't like that. I don't like the camera, but I should do that because they're doing it. And obviously it's successful for them. That's not true. Real estate is like vaudeville. There was an expression in vaudeville, which was, you got to find your gimmick. You got to find your voice, right? If you think about when I listen to artists sing, whoever the artist is, Beyonce or Taylor Swift, it doesn't matter.
You didn't say Frank Sinatra. I just can't believe.
All right, Frank Sinatra.
I mean, but you're an Italian. Yeah, it's just
Roger. He's number one. He's dead. Number two is half the audience watches may not even know who that is. So I'm trying to.
Yeah, good point.
Talk to the younger kids.
Okay.
Anyway, it doesn't matter when you listen. Well, all right, let's do Frank Sinatra again. You listen to Frank Sinatra, boy, his voice is beautiful, da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And then you hear Dean Martin. Holy jeez. Between you and me, I think Dean was always better than Frank. And then you have Sammy Davis. He's got another. But each one of those singers, you can listen to them and think there ain't anybody better until you hear the next one. So real estate's the same way. Like, just because an agent is successful and they found their voice on TikTok or YouTube, that doesn't mean that you have to copy that approach, because there's other approaches. Like mine was FSBOs and expireds. But I always tell power agents, don't do what I did. Do what you want to do. Find your voice. Find your path. Some agents love door knocking. I hated door knocking.
Right.
But some of my coaching students, Roger, they made six figures doing door knocking. So that's what I said. It's so important that you find what makes your heart smile as far as the activity, because then you're going to own it, and you're going to do it, and you're going to run with it.
Yes. Well, I think, you're right. You're right about that. I agree. And I also think that, you know, uh, you could also try to find joy in the things that you really need to be doing.
Hmm.
You know, like you said, the door knocking. I was like you. I did it. My whole world was based around it. And there was never a day I liked it,
Hmm.
honestly. It was something I knew I had to do, you know?
Hmm.
And so why don't I find a way to try to have fun with it and try to ease the pain a little bit and try to make it a little easier? Like go meet Fran to put me in a good mood at the front door and then go out and door knocking. So there's a fine line in there somewhere between what comes natural to me. Let me go chase that. I think that's
Yep.
great. I agree with you. And the other is try to make a decision on what do I just need to force myself through by looking for joy in those things that I'm doing here. But
I look at when it comes to prospecting, which that's the number one thing that an agent needs to do is be a rainmaker to keep bringing business in.
right,
We're only as good as our last closing. And so whether it's buyers or sellers, you've got to keep bringing business to you, and you have to cause that. Where we're different from the pizzeria is that, a pizzeria has a specific location, and after a while the community all knows, all right, you've got Pellegrino's over there, you got Wading River Pizza, like who the pizzerias are, and you go to them. In real estate, we don't have that luxury, so we've got to always be going out getting the business to come to us. We
right,
can't sit and wait for it. And I use the analogy of spokes in a tire. If you have a tire with no spokes, the tire, you can't use it. So each spoke gives integrity to the tire. Now, you can put too many spokes. There's a point of diminishing return where more spokes doesn't make it better. It makes it heavier, less aerodynamic. So in real estate, I say the spokes in the wheel are five. You should have five sources of prospecting. Could be FSBOs expireds. You said door knocking, open houses, mailings. There's like 95 other ones.
right.
So pick the five that you are going to commit to. And the most important thing is consistency. If you do anything in real estate consistent enough, it's going to reap rewards. And I want to say something about the patience or not happening right away, because you
Yeah,
said that. And I want to just give people this analogy, thinking like a farmer. When a farmer does what a farmer does, the first thing they till, they prep their acreages and their land, and then they plant the seeds, and then they water it, and they fertilize it, and they cultivate it. But the seeds don't grow overnight.
right.
They got to wait. I'm not a farmer, so I only know the analogy, but if it takes several days.
I read the book.
Okay. Yeah. So, the farmer doesn't, after he plants the seed, he doesn't sit in his kitchen staring out in the window, getting upset, saying, what the hell, it didn't work. No,
Right.
you got to give it some time. God's got to do his job with the sun and everything else. So, same thing in real estate. Every activity you're doing is planting seeds,
Mhm.
but you've got to work your farm. You got to work it and cultivate it and nurture it and take care of it and love it. And then eventually it'll give you a crop of.
Yeah, and our business, nurturing it and watering it and so forth. I mean, that is what you had mentioned earlier, and it's a relationship building business. And you had mentioned earlier about the for sale by owner. What am I trying to do here? Well, first thing you're trying to do is get trust. You know, I tell people, that the real estate business after doing this for 50 years has come down to two things, and that one is you sell credibility, and you
Mhm.
and you manage information. And if you can just deal with that. So that watering, that planting seeds, that's really in our business, that's relationship building, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just remember there was something else that we were talking about, just to put a pin in it too, about the mistake that brokers make with their agents, telling and not preparing them. I think the other problem agents have, and what makes them ineffective, is going back to that sales mentality thing. Listen, you said that your mentor said that, if we have a cure for cancer, you better have a good salesperson to sell it.
Right.
I want to be clear with people. I don't think sales is a bad word. I
Right.
think sales is a great word, and in some respects we are in a sales industry, but I think it lessens when we talk when we refer to what we do as selling, it lessens who we really are for people and what we do.
Right.
I think what elevates it is to act more like, if you think of an attorney or a doctor, what they do, they don't sell you to eat healthy or sell you on their approach to winning a case. What an attorney does, sticking just with the attorney, is they give you advice and they give you options. They
Right.
explain to you, here's the different paths.
Right.
And agents are so burdened. They go into a listing appointment and they think their job is to sell that homeowner on their price and their commission. And what I would love for agents to do is stop putting that burden on themselves and look at it more as a consulting conversation, that your job is not to sell them on the price. They're the boss. They decide the price. Your job is to coach them on the price, show them what the market says, educate them. But you should always finish, like when you tell them, here's what I think we should put the house on the market for, you should finish that sentence with, but you're the boss. You decide what you want to put the house on the market for. And if they go too high, you tell them, I think you're going too high, but listen, I'd love to be wrong. Let's give it a shot. But promise me, if we're not getting showings in 30 days, we're going to revisit this conversation, because I don't want us to become a white elephant that nobody wants to buy because we sat at the wrong price too long. Fair enough? So your job is to coach, not to sell. We tell power agents, we have a motto, Roger. It's power agents don't close people, they coach people, and they don't sell people, they serve people.
Yeah.
And I think those two ditties, those two philosophies, totally alters an agent and their relationship to what they do in a more powerful way.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, if you saw the listing presentation that I promote to people, it literally starts with, let's get our relationships straight. Let's understand the roles in this transaction we're entering here. One is, you're the boss. I literally say that.
That's awesome.
You're the boss. And I agree 100% with you. And by the way, it's just true.
Yeah,
It's just
it
true.
really is.
So it really helps you if you just get your own head straight about what you do.
Right.
You're not going to sell the house, they are.
Yeah.
I remember when I would have sellers who, if the houses weren't selling back in the days when they didn't, and they would say to me, you haven't sold my house. And my standard reaction was, well, it's not my house to sell. It's your house to sell. And like I told you, you're the boss. You're going to make decisions that are going to take you where you want to go. And I'm going to help you make decisions. Now, if you don't listen to me, I can't help you. If it was my house, it would be sold now, because I would have made different decisions.
Right.
But it's all based on that philosophy that you're teaching here. It says, I'm going to help you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So getting that straightened out early in the relationship makes some sense, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Make this seller understand that, what your value is. And by the way, that brings me to one of the things I was going to talk about, and to just kind of leap forward. And God, Joe, you're just firing stuff off in my brain. I feel like I'm dying because I got all this history flashing through my brain right now as you make me think of stuff, 50 years of talking to salespeople, it's just like in my brain. But today it seems like, with the new buyer contracts and all this that's happening, that I don't know that there's ever been a time that I remember in real estate where your perceived value is being challenged more than it is today.
Yeah.
So getting back to that, start to think in terms of, how do I have value? I think is becoming really important.
Yeah, I think what an agent should do, well, first of all, I hope that this conversation help people to see that what they do is be much more than salespeople. And, we need to, each agent needs to have their own self-respect and self-love for what they do. And, when they start losing that, then they should not be talking to buyers or sellers, because that's going to come through, is that they don't like their profession anymore. So, and I think what's been happening in our industry with lawsuits and stuff like that, our industry is definitely taking a hit in a big way, and it's up for the individual agent to make sure that they dig in deeper with their past clients and with their farm area, and branding themselves and promoting themselves as much as possible. And yeah.
What kind of feedback are you getting from your agents on um, the idea of signing a contract with buyers before you're showing property? I mean, that's it's a seismic shift in the real estate business, and how they
Well,
do.
actually, Roger, I when first of all, there's a lot of things about the lawsuit and the settlement that I disagreed. I disagree with how it was handled and what was settled, and now there's even talks. I don't know when this is going to air, but there's even talks now that the whole thing could be thrown out by one person who's challenging it. That just came out this last 48 hours.
Oh, that's new to me. I gotta look
Her
it up.
name's Tanya. I always mess up her last name. Tanya Monsieur. Oh, geez, I gotta look it up now. Um, yeah, give me. I'd have to look it up. So let me tell you who she is. Tanya is a law professor at, and she teaches real estate and contract law in I think the University of Buffalo or something. Anyway, she was one of the named plaintiffs. So she has a right to push back on the settlement agreement. So she's actually filed a complaint in the appeals court because she's saying that this settlement, she's made several points about it, and I won't go through all of them, but they're all very solid points. So there's more likelihood that this settlement is going to be thrown out and renegotiated. So it's not that we are going to now win the case. We're still lost. It's just how financially and what results that may change based on the judge's interpretation
Right.
of the law. Anyway, the one thing she pointed out was there's 40 million homeowners, and based on the $900+ million, yeah, 900 million, each homeowner is going to get $25.
Right.
But the law firm is getting over 300 million.
Right.
So that's part of her argument that this did not make the plaintiffs whole.
Yeah,
Which
it didn't serve clients. It served.
no, it didn't. It just served the attorneys.
Right.
And she's thrown the attorneys under the bus, saying that this is wrong. It shouldn't
Right.
be like this. And but in any event, what the heck was my point? What we were just
Well,
saying about?
we were referencing the idea of having a buyer contract, and
Oh,
the agents are
so
now having to, basically sell
yeah,
themselves
the buyer contract. So many agents have are still doing it so wrong after the settlement, which is a real shame. So I think what came out of the settlement was a lot of good things. One of those being separating the buyer and listing fee. Now, I didn't think I would think that was good. Like at first I thought, what the hell's wrong with this court and this jury? I mean, if I have a listing and I want to promote to other realtors to sell my listing, I have to make an offer. Hey, gang, show my listing and I'll pay you 2% or 3% if you sell it.
Right.
How the hell do you? Well, how can you not do that? Like, so Roger, in the very beginning, I was like, this is really going to screw up our industry. But I had to figure, all right, how can I help my coaching students navigate the new reality? And as I worked through it, I said, wait a second, there's some real good positive things. For example, going on a listing appointment, instead of asking for the full fee that you normally would get, whatever your full fee would be, if it's 6 or 7, and we'll just pick 6 as the example, going on an appointment, trying to convince a FSBO to commit to 6% is not an easy task. It's doable, but it's not a challenge. But how many times has a homeowner said to an agent, hey, bring me a buyer and I'll pay you 3? All the time they'll say that. A FSBO will say it.
Right.
So now, because of the lawsuit, we've separated the fees, right? Now you go on a listing appointment and you tell them my fee is 3 or 4 or 2. It is so much easier now to get a listing because of that reduced number. Now, on the buyer side, you're not going to have the buyer actually cut a check. What are you going to do? You're going to take the buyer commission and you're going to put that into the contract price. So the buyer's still not cutting the check, which is essentially what we do now. So essentially nothing has changed from a fee. And there was a study done on this that actually it seems like fees might have been going up. So this settlement, which is also part of Tanya's argument, by the way, that this settlement did not help reduce fees in the industry. If anything, it's actually ticked up. Because if you've got a listing agent who successfully can communicate to a homeowner, no, you don't have to pay me $6. My fee is $4. And then you have a buyer's agent who's asking for $3. Do the math. Now you're at $7. So I see a lot of good that's come out of it. And as far as the buyer signing a buyer agency agreement with a buyer, some states were already practicing that even before the lawsuits, so it was no skin off their teeth. In the markets where they didn't do it, I think it is a good idea that there be that clarity with your buyer and that you work for the buyer and represent the buyer. And so I think it's all good. It's just another skill set.
Yeah, I think it serves your discussion earlier about how you perceive what you do. In this having two separate contracts, it also changes the nature of your responsibility to each. And this idea as a consultant to a seller or as a consultant to a buyer, it seems like it gives me a little bit, I hate to put it this way, but a little bit less fiduciary relationship to the other person. I have a contract with my buyer like an attorney. Everybody knows you got an attorney on one side and an attorney on the other side. But in our business, technically and legally, you really didn't have the legal separation of responsibilities. Both agents have responsibility to both clients. Seems like this is going to allow you to really say, let's go to war together. Let me be your defender.
Well, depending on the state, because again, all states have different license law, and there's five states that out of the 50 that do not allow actually dual agency, right? So, but the other, because I'm a fan of dual agency, by the way. But going back to, I'm sorry, then I just deviated off of what you were just saying. To piggyback on what you were saying, before the buyer agency agreement, there was still a fiduciary, because we're in a service industry, so your actions would still suggest a contract of sorts, but it just wasn't spelled out, wasn't clear,
Right.
wasn't in writing. It was confusing, right? So I think this adds more transparency, more clarity, and it raises the perception again of our industry. The agents that had a problem with the signing of the buyer agency agreement, and I'm going to get loud with those folks, is before the settlement and before we were imposing the buyer agency agreement, the buyer agent was being told what they're worth by the listing agent. The listing agent say, you sell my house, you're worth 2%, you're worth 1%, whatever. Now, the buyer's agent has the ability to dictate what they're worth and say, this is my fee, this is what and the agents that weren't used to that and don't value themselves enough push back on this, because now they're thinking, I've got to decide what I'm worth, and then I've got to try and sell the buyer on my value.
Right.
And what if I don't do that conversation well? So it added another skill that needed to be mastered that most agents didn't have, and they didn't want to do it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's valid. Well, listen, I got more to talk to you about. I hope you got a little bit more time.
Okay, well, I got 3 minutes for you.
3 minutes.
I'll stretch it out.
You were right on time today, so I can't push you too hard. There's two more things I want to talk about.
Sure.
The first is you did I guess it was a seminar or a podcast or webinar on Zillow.
Yeah.
I have looked at Zillow, and I deeply believe that these guys are just evil, wrapped up in a beautiful, I mean, you talk about that wolf in sheep's clothing. And I know you did a beautiful breakdown of how Zillow came along and how they bought companies. They keep getting deeper and deeper. And I remember I was president of a local board here, Real Estate Association. We're pretty good size. We have about 11,000 people. But they had a contract with Zillow. Zillow was getting the feed automatically, and the contract came up, and they came back to us to sign a new contract to automatically feed listings to Zillow. I was definitely opposed to it. Got all kinds of fight about it. Got Zillow into the building to have a conversation, and they stood there. This is probably 2000, call it 15, so maybe 10 years ago.
Okay.
And they were, we're never going to be an MLS. We're never going to be a real estate broker. We're never going to be able to just lie. And then to your point, with your video, which was so well done, I thought you explained that process. So you remember, lay some of that out for me. You remember?
Yeah. So I'm not as strong as you are about Zillow being the evil ones, but
No,
I am.
We gotta stop talking right now. Then
No, listen. Zillow is a publicly traded corporation that has for all intents and purposes, a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders to make their stock as valuable and as profitable as they are. And
exactly,
they are doing an incredible job in that regard. And unfortunately, they are better at most things when it comes to the tech and the platform than we are. Now, my feeling from the real estate agent standpoint, because I'm pro agent, like that's everything I do is for agents.
Me too.
I mean, listen, I love brokers, but even brokers, they're not my top priority. It's agents, and I am anti Zillow because I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist that they're going to replace agents. So I don't think they'll ever replace agents, but their commitment is to be in the center of every real estate transaction. That's their commitment.
Right.
And what some people don't know is Richard Barton, who was one of the co-founders of Zillow. He created another product back before he created Zillow. And that product he created was called Expedia. And the year that Expedia got launched, and I have a chart in this, and you might have seen it in that training, that shows that when Expedia got launched, the travel industry, at the same time, revenues for hotels went up because of Expedia. Travel agents' population went down dollar for dollar or month by month, however you want to do it.
Right.
So, yeah, so Zillow is not a friend of realtors, period. Zillow is committed to Zillow, period.
Yes.
And
by the way, at that point, no one can argue. It's like,
no, you really can't. Now, but now, Roger, you know what's interesting? So I've been doing, these webinars and training. Zillow is not our friend. Stop giving the money. Listen, any agent that's still giving Zillow money for Premier Agent, I'm sorry, they're just moronic. They're not good business people. They're thinking short term. Now, some of the agents are doing it because they're getting tens of thousands of dollars a month in business and leads.
Right.
I understand that.
Right.
But that's how you get addicted to heroin. The dealer gives you free taste, and you get hooked. And this is what's happened to some of these agents. I mean, just think about it. Zillow's making money on listing agents. They're reselling the listings to another agent. And by the way, they're not selling it to one Premier agent. They're selling it to several agents.
Right.
So now these several Premier agents are fighting over that lead.
Right.
And, Zillow is no longer a marketing platform. They have a real estate license in every state. They are a competitor. So you've got agents who are giving money to their competitor that's going to work against them, and it's just a horrible thing.
I think the balance in this thing should be brought back to this. And there's a big war going on about it now, but this concept, so what they've done so brilliantly. By the way, Barton was doing some entrepreneur class, I think was it maybe at NYU or Harvard or one of these Ivy League schools. And he literally said what you said. He literally said, our intention was to get them addicted.
Yeah.
And
And
once they're addicted, then they can't say. And I mean, as I walk around, advocating for this today, it's amazing to me how it's true. There's a level of addiction here that I kind of want to smack people around and go, please pay attention. What you're doing is when did we go? When did we get to a place in real estate where every single listing you take should go there? Into Zillow. There's never been an advertising platform in all my years of real estate where I had to advertise every single house I've got listed in the newspaper, in a magazine, on TV, every place. Why is it? And this is where they've so brilliantly changed this discussion today with this new clear cooperation policy. I'm not sure how much you're following that, but they make it sound like you're some sort of morally obligated and ethically obligated to take someone's listing and put it in Zillow, and the industry seems to be buying it. It's insane to me.
Well, I'm not going to mention any names. There's some people in our industry I have a tremendous amount of respect for that are very pro CCP, and they've been, when Zillow came out with their policy that if you are a realtor and you get a listing and you don't put it in MLS within 24 hours, like the CCP says, after you start to promote the listing,
Right.
then Zillow's going to ban your listing and ban you. Okay.
Right.
And so there are industry leaders, realtors, applauding Zillow for doing that. And I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you? I mean, and these are people I really respect.
Yeah.
And one of them said, thank God Zillow's saving us from ourselves. And again, this is a smart guy who thinks that Zillow's doing that for us. No, Zillow don't care about realtors. Roger, let me tell you something. My email now, because I've been really anti-Zillow for months. I don't know if I had anything to do with this, but I like to think maybe I did, because all of a sudden I see in all of these ads on Risk Media, on Inman News, if you go to Inman News today and you see one of my articles, there are at least 6 ads from Zillow on my article page.
Right.
And it all says the same thing.
Right.
Zillow is a friend of agents. So they are counter marketing this message that I'm putting out there that Zillow is not for the agent, they're for Zillow. So they're counter advertising, if you will.
Right.
But now watch this. They finally came out with their policy. And their policy now says that if you don't put it on us, on our platform, within 24 hours of your advertising, we'll ban you.
Right.
So in other words, Zillow's saying, listen, if you don't put it into your MLS, we're okay with that as long as you put it with us.
Right.
There you go. Zillow is committed to Zillow. They ain't committed to Realtor.
No. And so, boy, and I'll tell you, if there's anything you ever need help with, I'll be there pounding my drum because I just think the industry's got to wake up to this thing. I don't think there's a problem with Zillow as an advertising platform. If you want to put your listing out there, and so now my argument would be this: when someone enlists me to sell their house or help them sell their house, and they consult in me, I want every inquiry about that house to come to me. I know that house intimately. I know what the strengths of the house. I want to be the one to sell that person on all the features of this home. That's why they hire me. And this idea that I put my house in Zillow, and then all the inquiries go to somebody who's never seen the house. They have no passion for this listing at all. To tell me that there's somehow, and one of the arguments I've had recently is with people is, just tell me one house in the last 10 years that has sold that would not have sold if we did not have Zillow.
Yeah.
Let's get this back in perspective. The powerful tool is the realtor and the multiple listing service and how they cooperate with one another. That's the tool.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a lot to work to be done. And one of the things is, and then I got to wrap this up because I just have another appointment. But,
sure.
one of the things we got to do is, I was just thinking while you were talking, even though I said I don't feel like Zillow is like as strong as you said, evil and dead. But I had a thought, though. And the thought is that Zillow's like a vampire. Okay. And here's why I'm going to use that analogy, because you see, if you're in your house, you're safe from a vampire.
Yes.
The moment you invite that vampire into your house, you're no longer safe. You got to invite them in.
Yeah.
Well, we've invited Zillow in.
Yeah. And fed them.
They have staff members, Roger. They have staff people on committees, on NAR committees.
Right.
Why?
Right.
Get them out of the house, man. Let them be a vendor. Let them sit on the sidelines, and let's control the conversation and control our relationship and control our industry, and uninvite that vampire out of our house. And that's what we need to do. But anyway,
one of my and we'll wrap up with this, but one of my agents, he's a 7-figure year income guy. He says that the giving all the data away to these portals has cost him at least $250,000 a year in lost sign calls. And for people to start to realize, how we've let, to your point, I gotta stop right now. You've got me all worked up. I need a pizza. I need something else, some spaghetti.
We could spend another hour talking about this. I have no doubt.
Maybe we'll have you back again if you have some time. But Darryl, I appreciate it. It was great to have the opportunity to meet you. And if there's anything I can ever do to help your cause, please knock on the door. And I thank you for joining me today.
Well, Roger, I on behalf of the industry, thanks for doing this and putting your time into this to make the industry better, and our cohort behind the scenes over there that's making you look all handsome and stuff, our tech guy back there. Yeah. So thank you for doing this, and let's keep making a difference, all right?
We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
All right, buddy, take care. Bye-bye.